Today's topic, we want to discuss how important it is for the youth in the fight of social justice. How important it is to have the youth on the front line. I mean, we see things on TV all the time. We see the protesting. We see all of that. But tell us how important it is. How important is the youth in this fight?
Yeah, I think the next generation of civil rights attorneys, of people who are on the front lines, are obviously going to be the youth. I mean, you know, we all hope in each of our lifetimes to push the needle further towards equal rights, but you know, it's a process, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. That's what keeps us all sane. And then what also keeps us fighting are the youth, because we want their future to be better and more equalized, and for them to have more and better opportunities. So I do think it's important for them to be engaged in social justice issues, for them to educate themselves on social justice issues. And I think most recently, something that's available to them that wasn't necessarily fully available to our generation has a lot to do with, you know, researching the origins of a lot of social justice issues and just having a better understanding. And then, of course, talking to their peers, because sometimes, well, there's many paths to a revolution, right? There are different things. There's what the attorneys are doing. There are what the people who are on the streets are doing. There's people doing things in churches. And there's something called allyship, which is, you know, finding people across the aisle that don't necessarily look like us or have the same life experience, but they can also advocate for us, or with us, alongside us, allies. And so I think that the youth, you know, are critical to that, because these are their peers. These are their formative years where they're forming those bonds and those friendships and those connections to basically create allies within their peer groups, so that when they are on the front lines, you know, they're together and they have support and allies. So I think that's a very important part that the youth can play in social justice. I also think that awareness is so important, and because they are on social media and they're so active on social media, I think they have been. I think there's a lot of teenagers and young people on TikTok that are like, hey, you know, this is what's going on. They're making their little videos and they're doing their stuff, and they're like breaking down different issues, voter rights issues and things like that. I think that's important. Because, yeah, you know, there's a part of social media that is for fun and for hanging out, for talking, and for them to be creative and exchange ideas. But it's a whole other thing for them to use their platforms to actually educate each other on issues and use that awareness to drive change as well.
Right, I love that, and I love the narrative for the TikTok, because everyone's on there. I got to make sure my account is up to date, by the way. And that's amazing, and I really do see the youth in action. They're more fierce. This generation is definitely more fierce, and I agree, they're definitely on the path of even greater awareness, because we're seeing things every day. What are some of the barriers you think that you face that would hinder them from being involved in those movements?
I think some of the barriers have to do with they're operating in a no-holds-barred environment, whereas a lot of things that we had to deal with were overt or covert. Race issues and social justice issues that were covert. So you're trying to explain to someone, you know, why there's a higher rate of incarceration in the Black community, and they're telling you that it's because, you know, these people in certain communities are just more criminal, have inherently, you know, more criminality. Whereas now they're empowered with more information. So they're like, no, actually there was this thing called the war on drugs that caused that broke up families, that, you know, caused these economic issues and led to da 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 da. So it's more out in the open. So because they have that information, they're then, you know, waging a war that everyone is aware of. And I think sometimes because the information is out there, I hear a lot of people say to this generation even more, well, there are no, you know, we don't see color, and, you know, obviously you guys are all together, you know, in classes or just in social groups, so there isn't any more racism. There was a black president, you know, things like that, a black vice president. So, you know, there aren't these racial issues because look at all these things that are happening that, you know, Black people are able to kind of break through. So I think that's a barrier because optically things look better, but substantively there's still a lot of issues going on that have to be resolved, including, you know, police reimagination and economic reimagination and things like that. So I think a barrier is that the day looks brighter optically. However, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done under the surface.
One last thing to just share with us, what are your final words for the next generation coming up, for the youth of today? What are your final words in about 10 seconds for them to?
Yeah, I think that this is absolutely the most important work of our time. It's the most important work of our time, and it's because it's for them, for their generation. And so be active, be involved, be aware, you know, work on building allyship and bringing awareness to these issues, and stay educated, know your rights.
Know your rights. So basically what she said is stay woke, okay? Know your rights. All right, thank you so much. We were so glad to have you on here. We're looking forward to talking to you again. We're going to stay connected on your page again. She is a lawyer in real life, not just on TV. Sue Ann Robinson, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all those precious gems with us. And thank you guys for watching the Kurline Speaks show. Until then, see you in the next video.